You are now listening to The Perfect Prana with Kyah Ann. What's poppin'? What's good? Welcome back, my friends, to The Perfect Prana Show, School's Out Summer Edition, Season 3. I'm Kyah Ann, your host and a yoga enthusiast on the Chicago scene. And if you love yoga, this is the perfect place to be. If you do not love yoga, this is still the perfect place to be because I have a lot in store for you all today between the yoga news, where I talk about what's going on in the world, how it relates to yoga, Yoga Heals, where I bring on a very special guest, usually a yoga instructor, and talk to them about their practice, and the Weekly Wellness Challenge, where I've been following the 8 limbs of yoga, and yes, we are recycling it. But before we get into all of that, let's take this moment to center ourselves. So no matter what you're doing, no matter where you're at, you're driving in the car, you're sitting in the park, you're walking in the park, you're laying in the bed, you're sitting on the couch, there is an array of options. Take this moment to lengthen out your spine. Create a nice line of energy from your tailbone to your crown so breath can effortlessly move through you. And just begin to notice your breath and what it does naturally. And you can always come back to your natural breath. And then push out all the air so you can take a new breath with me in through your nose, right into your low back, past your rib cage, up to your collarbone, and hold at the top. And then exhale to sigh it out. Exhaling what you do not need, exhaling everything, and hold at the bottom. Inhale through your nose, filling all the way up, and hold. And then exhale, removing all of the breath, emptying out completely to start a new breath cycle. Inhale through your nose, filling up your belly like a balloon. Hold. And then exhale, sighing it out to deflate your belly, pushing out all the air. Inhale through your nose and let the breath travel to any place in your body that needs attention or nourishment. And then exhale to relieve whatever tension, toxicity, whatever you do not need. Let your breath come back to a steady rhythm. I am centered. Let's get on with the show. Yoga news. This week's yoga news. San Diego wages war on beachside yoga. Teacher Nama Steve has been teaching free yoga classes on the beach for 17 years, and recently park ranger said you have to go. You cannot be on the beach teaching yoga classes without a permit. Basically, they don't want unauthorized businesses making money or potentially making money off of gatherings on public land. This is so crazy. So they said 4 or more people, you need a permit to gather to do yoga. And I'm like, so what if I have a group of 5 friends and we're 5 friends all together and we decide to just go do yoga on the beach? And like, you cannot be serious. There has to be more important things going on and issues to stop than people gathering on the beach to do yoga. Of course, I'm on the yogi side. They've been protesting by gathering in large groups and just doing the yoga anyways, and they've been being watched by the park rangers, and there have been issues. There was a meeting set up with the mayor, but per the city attorney's advice, the mayor canceled the meeting. So yeah, this seems like this is going to be a little bit of a battle. Hopefully they get to freely practice their yoga on the beach, because there's a lot worse things that people could be doing on the beach in large groups. I mean, people gather on the beach to do drugs, to drink, and whatever. And if there's 3 people on the beach doing drugs and drinking, then is that okay? But as long as they're not 5 people doing yoga on the beach, like, come on, you know, that's a stupid rule. And especially just considering that the classes are free, so they're not making money off of these classes, so whatever. I think it's stupid that you need a permit anyways to gather. That just feels like such a restriction that honestly it doesn't really make any sense. Like, why do I need the government's permission to gather 5 of my friends to do a wellness practice? You cannot be serious. Free all my yogis everywhere. Practice with as many friends as you want, anywhere that you want. And that's just it. I mean, freedom of assembly. Like, come on, this is America. Where's the freedom at? But hopefully the city lightens up on that and they're like, okay, let's just go focus on other issues going on in the city, because the world will be a better place if more people gathered together and did wellness activities on the beach. That is great for your health. You're grounding, you're barefoot, fresh air, nice view, getting some sunlight. What's the big deal? And I'm not in San Diego, but I do want to go to some lakeside yoga classes this summer, just a few times. And I had thoughts about starting it up myself, but I just didn't know what it takes. Honestly, I kind of want to fill out some people that already teach yoga on the lake, just to see, what are the secrets? What do you do? What don't you do? Because, I'm not trying to get a permit and be like, oh, can I please have permission to gather these people? I'd rather just post about it, be like, hey, come to the beach, pop out, and I'm teaching yoga. Anybody can come, donation based. Like, I'm not even gonna charge people. Like, if you want to give me money, cool, but it's not a requirement. I just love yoga and I want to share it with everybody. So what's the big deal? So hopefully San Diego lightens up on their yogi citizens, and hopefully Chicago isn't strict about that kind of thing. Yoga heals. This week's yoga heals Erin Brammer. She is a yoga teacher at Yoga View, and she's been practicing going on 30 years. Whoa, that's intense. Erin strives to cultivate a warm and welcoming space where her students can connect deeply with themselves in the spirit of curiosity and compassion. She offers an injury-informed approach and guides students safely through their practice with awareness of common pitfalls. I had a great discussion with Erin, so let's just get right into it. Thank you so much, Erin, for coming onto my show, The Perfect Prana Show. I'm so blessed to have you with me today, on Zoom. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm happy to be doing this, and thank you for asking me.
The first question that I ask every guest that comes onto the show is, when did you start practicing yoga, and why do you still practice yoga today?
I mean, I started practicing some yoga when I was in high school, which was in the late 80s, early 90s. Like, I just always had this interest in like alternative health, and I was a vegetarian from young teenage years, and I don't know, I was just drawn to that. So I remember at that time, I just like got this book, and I had asthma, and I still have asthma, but I was really trying to figure out some ways to help that didn't involve the inhalers and all of that. So at first I was just like doing some things from books. And this was in the late 80s when there was no internet. So I just did the best I could with that. A little bit later on, I enrolled in a massage therapy training program at this place called Heartwood Institute in Northern California. And as part of the training program, they had the students do like daily yoga practice. It's just like a nice complement to like the physical work of doing massage therapy. And then, they really wanted to help us foster kind of body awareness. And so that was in like 94, 95. And at that point, like when I was practicing, it was like such a magical experience, because I was like, I was in this school, but it was basically a commune/school, literally on a mountaintop. Living with this like great community, home cooked vegetarian meals, like daily yoga, like with this amazing teacher, and she has studied with BKS Iyengar. I mean, I was just like in love with it, it was early and I've never been like a very early morning person, but I mean, just getting up, 6 a.m., walking to the yoga space there and practicing with, this wonderful community. And I was there for like a year and a half. And so it was fantastic. At first, it started out with like Iyengar yoga. And then there was some Ashtanga as people started to get, a better grasp of the fundamentals through the Iyengar practice. And then, I kept practicing after that. And, my reasons for practicing have definitely changed. Like you asked why I still practice today. I mean, definitely my number one reason is for the mental health benefits. It just really is a great tool to have in my toolbox for, alleviating stress, anxiety, and depression. Like I am like kind of genetically predisposed to these things. And so yoga is just something that, gets me out of my head, gets me out of like any, sort of like negativity spiral I might be doing in my mind, boosts my mood. It's fun. I don't know, it's just really become kind of a non-negotiable in my life. Like it wasn't, definitely wasn't always that way. Like at a certain point, I just became like addicted has negative connotations, but like addicted to yoga. And so that's why I keep practicing. I mean, I also love the community aspect. And, I primarily practice at Yoga View, and I've practiced there since they opened. And especially, in the past like 5, 6 years, I've really become more like part of the community there and have branched out, and like I used to be very shy and I would just like go to my class and kind of leave. And but it's now the community aspect of it is crucial for me, and it's like the closest I've been able to get to that feeling of like living on the commune in California with that community. So that's a big part of it. I mean, I love the physical benefits from it. And as I'm getting older, like I'm really looking at it as a way to counteract aging. Elderly people in nursing homes, as you age, left to your own devices, if you're not doing some kind of wellness practice or physical fitness routine, I mean, you just start to kind of harden and curl up and hunch over and shrink. And, people who do yoga, that doesn't tend to happen. I mean, unless there's some other certain, I just want to age and like expand and grow more and, hopefully not shrink, like my mom like lost like almost 3 inches, over the years since I've seen her. So very aware of that. I just turned 51. So yeah, I feel like yoga keeps you young, and that's a really good reason to practice.
That could be on a shirt. Yoga keeps you young.
Yeah, there you go.
No, I mean, I agree. It's just like my wellness plan. It can be hit, it can be cardio, it can be restorative, it could just be so much mixed with philosophy as well, just the mental aspects of it about like, okay, I don't need to go as deep or I don't need to be so egotistical about this. So I feel like yoga encompasses the perfect mix for me of like mental wellness plan and physical wellness plan. So that I agree with that. There's
Yeah.
something you brought up earlier about asthma and how much you were into holistic health. And it kind of made me think, how do you decide when to take the conventional medicine versus to holistically heal, since that's something like I'm sure you've studied a lot. So
Yeah, I mean, with asthma, there's definitely a place for the Western medicine. And I still have inhalers. But as I've noticed, gotten older and through the yoga practice, my asthma has improved like a lot to the point where I don't need like I used to be on like a daily inhaler that, I had to take twice a day. And then in addition to that, I have, like the rescue inhaler. And I've gotten to the point through yoga practice, through learning to breathe through my nose, which I think is super key, where, I don't need those things. And, I occasionally need my rescue inhaler. Like I've identified other triggers for my asthma, like cold air, certain foods. So yeah, and I feel like yoga even like helps with that because you become more aware of your body and like, oh, when I eat, I mean, this is very unfortunate, but like when I eat ice cream, I'm going to be suffering, like the cold, like, I'm going to be like coughing and wheezing and just learned how to, I don't know, how to manage it a little better. Definitely have to, make some sacrifices. But like, I feel like yoga and breathing through the nose is such a huge help for asthma. I mean, and I don't know, in my classes, I really drill it home. I'm always like, breathe through your nose, breathe through the nose. I mean, it like filters all the air, it warms the air, it removes any particles, and you absorb. There's some like crazy statistic. Like I think it's like you absorb 20% more oxygen when you breathe through your nose versus if you are breathing through your mouth. Or in the past, few years have been really learning about the benefits of nasal breathing. But since that's so much a part of yoga, I had already experienced that firsthand. And now it's kind of really coming more into the mainstream, like you can do mouth taping, which I do sometimes. I don't know if you've experimented with that, but like with my asthma, a lot of times, if I just go to sleep and breathe through my mouth, breathing in like raw, unfiltered air all night. And it was very common to wake up already like with labored breathing. And I tape my mouth and it's a whole different ball game. I know I'm getting on a little bit of a tangent. There's like a lot of things that have come to me through practicing yoga. And then later on, it's like, oh, there's like science behind like why this is working for me. So
Every once in a while, I try to breathe through my mouth just to like see, and I'm like, this feels wrong. Like, I can't
yeah.
believe that there was a point in my life where I didn't know. Like, I would breathe in reverse, and I'm like, wow. So I do this now. I'm like, this is not right. In yoga, it tells us to do all this stuff. And sometimes there isn't a scientific explanation for it, but, over time, the truth about why these practices have been recommended. Mouth taping. Yes.
Oh,
I have heard about it, but I've never experimented with it. And I am interested and curious too, especially because every once in a while I've been told that I snore.
oh yeah, it helps with that.
So
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe I do need to tape my mouth because I can't control, like, when you're asleep, I can't consciously breathe when I'm sleeping.
Of
I'm
course not.
Nobody can. So it is a good habit to be able to just use your nose instead of your mouth. I'm like, if I'm sleeping next to somebody and they're like, "Oh, you were snoring," I'm like, "Close my mouth." If I'm sleep, close my
Yeah.
mouth. Like, I don't care.
Like,
Yeah, yes, I don't care if it wakes me up. That's fine. Just close my mouth. I'll fall back asleep.
I mean, and
But
there are different like there are actual, products made just for that purpose. They're a little pricey. Like, definitely don't want to use duct tape or, like you need a kind of a special kind of tape that's not going to like rip your skin off when you remove it.
okay, so let's get into the next question. What I wanted to ask you more just about what's your mission as a yoga teacher?
I have like a lot of missions, but I would say my primary mission, my hope is that people can feel some sense of like any sense of what relief, peace, relaxation, playfulness, curiosity, like maybe you feel a little bit lighter. I just want people to like feel some of those benefits from my practice. So I really I definitely look at it as a place of service. Like I just want to help kind of spread that benefit around. And, I know, I can't like force people to, do everything that I say and all that. But if people get any semblance of relief, I want to help people slow down. Like our world is so fast paced. I mean, these are kind of getting into some of my secondary missions, I guess, but just slowing down, and not necessarily, that doesn't necessarily mean like a slow practice. There might be some more vigorous parts and, area segments that are a little bit more focused on holding stuff and relaxing. But yeah, I just, like a big part of it, I've talked a lot about the breath. Like I want to get people to breathe through their nose and just like to pay attention to your breath and to feel the benefit of, how your breath connects your mind to your body. And you can use your mind use the breath as a focal point to help you be more present. The more present you are, the more you're going to get out of your yoga practice. So there's definitely that piece of it. Like just getting people off of their phones, like off of technology for an hour, I think that's important. Another thing like with yoga that I really like hope to convey or hope to design my classes around is really incorporating more like strength training, more mobility training. Like I think, flexibility is really emphasized so much in yoga. And I think it scares people off a little bit who feel very stiff. But I want people to, feel comfortable. Like I want them to know you don't have to be flexible to do yoga. And in my classes, I want to build in that strength and the mobility exercises, like adding in yoga drills and longer holds to really like, get some benefits of that as opposed to just increasing the flexibility. Because I think there's like it definitely depends on teacher to teacher, studio to studio, but like emphasizing areas where you can like build that strength. That's one of my missions. And I mean, just some background on why that's so important to me is just that I learned the hard way that focusing too much on the flexibility, and like going deeper and deeper and like wanting to get to the next pose. I injured myself a lot doing that, especially as I got older. I mean, I think you can get away with a lot more of that when you're younger. But as your body ages, like you need to be able to not do that. So I really think that the strength part was like a big missing piece of the puzzle to me and was a big factor in my tendency to injure myself in the past. On the other side of that, as I've recovered from injuries and start like reintroducing poses, I really focus on like bringing more strength and stability in, and like core strength. Like I used to like really hate the core aspect of yoga. And this was years ago, but like boat pose would come up and I just like, wouldn't groan audibly, but just be like, like, hey, I hate this. I hate this. 'Cause I do boat pose. But, then like, I'm learning, oh, well, because my core wasn't strong enough, my back wasn't protected and doing these really deep back bends. Um, so I just think it's really key to preventing injuries is like taking like maybe not going into your deepest version of the pose in terms of how flexible you are, but there's strength in like backing off and like giving yourself a little resistance. So yeah, I mean, I guess that's a lot of missions.
No, need more of a focus, like you said, on strength in the yoga world. And just considering that, like, in mobility, like you said, just considering that, yoga is for everybody. It's not just for gymnasts or contortionists or whoever. It can or it should be for everybody, more so for the people that aren't gymnasts and contortionists and who
Exactly.
are doing, like, they already can do all that crazy stuff. So, I mean, sure, they need to do yoga, but more so the normal people like me walking around every day and like my mom and like whoever else, like we need yoga probably the most.
Yeah.
Just cuz this world, we're sitting down all the time and we're in our cars and just living the way that we're living. So, it is an important practice to have. Yeah, and then also I just wanted to say I like that you brought that up because focusing more on strength and mobility kind of makes yoga more practical
Right.
and functional, like, oh, so I can actually use this in real life. Like, again, this isn't, I'm not training to be a contortionist. More so I'm training so I can reach in the back seat and grab something if I need to,
Yeah.
or I can simply just walk up the stairs, or everyday actions that require our body. So
Yeah, it just really allows you to just move with more comfort and ease.
okay, yeah. So there was something else I wanted to ask you. Since you kind of went into it a little bit, but maybe you'll have more to add or even something different to say, is just what are you working on in your own personal practice right now?
Yeah, in my practice, probably my favorite thing to work on right now is handstand and forearm stand to a certain extent. I mean, literally years I've been working on handstand, and then like in the past couple of years, I've gotten to the point where I'm able to balance, away from the wall. And at first it was maybe I could get like a 2-second balance and then I'd come out of it. I just find it so fun, like just seeing the progress you get from practicing this pose every single day for years. And now I can balance sometimes for like 30 seconds or a minute. And I think what I like so much about handstands and forearm balance. I handstands are like the first love. Forearm balance, I love too, but a little harder on my shoulders. So been dealing with some shoulder stuff. But I guess what I was going to say is like I feel like more than, at least for me, more than any other type of pose, like trying to balance in handstand or forearm stand, it like demands that you are present. It demands mindfulness. I mean, like if your mind is wandering and you're trying to balance, I'm going to fall right over, So it's like, I don't know. I like it kind of reminds me of like, I'm not like a big physical risk taker, so I'm like always in awe of people who, there was this documentary not too long ago called like Free Solo about like free climbing. Any sort of physical activity, like, I don't know, skiing or snowboarding or whatnot. Like when you're in those types of situations where you have to be present in your body, it's just like this kind of joyous experience because that being able to be present is joy. And I think that is part of like when I know one of the topics was enlightenment. I think the ability to be present is a key towards that. And whereas like doing, I love all poses really. There are a few that I just refuse to do that I won't do. But like I can do a pretty mindless triangle pose. I can do a mindless wheel, like it doesn't, but the inversions, like you are in it, you have, it just really, it's the closest I can get to, to maybe like, doing a bungee jump, which I will probably never do, but, just like being present and like really reaping the rewards from that in a very tangible way.
I definitely will say it is exhilarating. It's super fun. Anytime I'm in a yoga class and it gets to inversions and everybody's upside down, everybody immediately starts smiling and laughing and it just everybody becomes talkative. There's just something so joyous about it, but maybe it is because it demands that mindfulness and being present and a certain level of concentration and playfulness too because
Mhm.
you might fall out of it or you
Yeah.
might surprise yourself and do something that you didn't really expect and you're like whoa that was crazy or that was fun or so there is something super fun about inversions
And
and
there's an element of, risk, like it's a small risk, but it can be scary to like try to kick up, into a handstand. And if you're not working on handstands yet, I mean, just like like a lot of arm balances, like crow pose can be incredibly scary, to like just trust that you're not going to fall on your face, so I just like that's part of the fun of yoga is like taking these small risks and getting, reaping the rewards of that. And I think, all of this sort of translates into your life. Like I feel like how you walk through and approach life is kind of mirrored in how you practice yoga. So, I think you mentioned like falling out of a pose and like just learning to fall, gracefully, not necessarily like gracefully in a physical sense, but just like being lighthearted about it and not getting angry or, like being mad and like, "Arr," like I say that because I used to feel that way. Now, like I've just sort of made like a habit that I force myself to develop, which I love now because it's just in me, is like whenever I do fall out of a pose, I smile, curl my lips up, and it helps. I mean, even if your initial like kind of unconscious reaction is like, stupid leg, you can't balance today. And then it's like, no, you just smile. And then, when you smile, it's like it's hard it's hard to feel bad. I mean, there is like a physiological connection to that. So, just any little things that I can do to, I don't know, just be to feel more graceful and more like generous with myself on the mat. I feel like that's going to help. That's going to translate into my life, similar to like taking risks on the mat. You build confidence that way, and that can help you feel more confident taking some chances in your life outside of the yoga room.
I mean, honestly, my next question for you was like, do you feel like your yoga practice has that helped you take risk in your life outside of your yoga practice? Yeah, because I mean, risk taking is important. All successful people took a risk at some point. So,
Yeah, yeah, definitely it has. I mean, I guess a recent example was just like my decision to start teaching, um, because right when I finished teacher training, like I kind of secretly knew all along, like I wanted to teach, but I didn't want to like totally like put that out there right away. Like it was terrifying teaching, some of those first classes. Like teaching, I started teaching the community classes at Yoga View. And I mean, the anxiety was off the charts. But then I did it and it was just like, oh my God, that felt so good. I loved it. I was so nervous, but I don't even care now. It was just like, exhilarating. And, like it just, felt like I found my purpose. And if I hadn't, there's an old version of me would have, found excuses and been like, oh, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy to teach yoga, so like taking these risks on my mat it has enabled me to take other risks. And then like the fear of failure ties into that too, because like part of my aversion to taking a risk is like, oh, what if I fail? Because I'm also like a recovering perfectionist, recovering people pleaser, all of that. Um, like just learning to see falling or any kind of failure in life as that's just part of life. Like you're not going to be able to do anything perfectly. Like I'm human. Like that needs to be my mantra sometimes. I am human. I am human. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to let people down. It's okay to, fall out of a yoga pose. It's, just like, I think so much of it is like taking life less seriously, taking the yoga practice less seriously, even, I mean, not that you should, I think it's good to be serious about like your commitment to the practice but like not getting so hung up on like, oh, I just really want to get to this pose. And if I can't do it, then I'm going to be in a bad mood now.
No, I mean, that's beautiful. That's kind of a just a way to think about it in life in general. Kind of like what you just said about handstands, If you fall out of it, just laugh, just smile about it. And it's a way to think about any type of failure. If I fail, just laugh about it. Like, or just smile. Like failure happens. I've been learning myself to handle rejection differently as well, kind of like you said, more lightheartedly, like, okay, on to the next. That's not the end all
Right.
be all, you know?
Yeah. You are not for everybody. I am not for everybody. It's just like that's just why the people pleasing mentality is so toxic. Like you're not meant to have everybody love you, like I just need to let that go. Like, and I am. It's a process I'm working on, but I'm prioritizing myself over other people's feelings. And then, just a quick thing on people pleasing is one thing that helps me a lot in case there's other people pleasers out there who might listen to this is just realizing that it's a common, like, if, like, for example, something I'll commonly do is like get all worried about, like, oh my God, what did I say? After a conversation with anyone, I can't believe I said that. That's so stupid. What must this person think? Oh, I did. Oh, I can't believe I did that. And so saw it. And they must think and the reality is, everybody else is doing the same thing. They're not thinking about, oh, Erin, like, how dare she say that last night? They're like thinking like, oh my God, what did I say? And like just coming to that understanding that these feelings that you feel, other people feel that. Like it's so easy to, especially in this age of social media, it's so easy to just look at other people and think everybody just has their shit together, everyone besides me. And let that perfectionism go, let the people pleasing go, learning to trust that if I do things that nourish myself, to take care of myself, working on building positive habits, like I'm just going to try to concern myself with evolving into, better and better versions of myself. And whoever's into that will be into it, and whoever's not, that's fine because I'm hoping to build that self-confidence that I don't need to please everybody. So,
Yeah, no, that is so important for peace of mind. I mean,
yeah.
and it is something, where I've noticed like that anxiety that I might get from my interactions with people are like, oh, that was so awkward. Oh, that was weird. Oh my God. I might smell bad, or oh my God, like just whatever little anxious thoughts, or I hope they didn't see me do that, or, whatever. It is, everybody's going through the same thing. Like, we're literally in human bodies in these meat sacks, and it's a human experience, and it's weird. Like, being in this body, it can be weird. So it is important, one, to be playful and to be able to be lighthearted about everything. Also, to just recognize that humanness in yourself and in everybody else, and then to be less self-centered. Like, I'm that is something I've noticed, is when I get all these thoughts, I'm like, dang, I'm really self-centered. Like,
Right.
in this interaction, like, I'm thinking about myself the whole time and what embarrassing thing is going on. But that actually makes me less present with the person, and it makes me, my relationship can't be as fulfilling with them, because I'm just too focused on thinking about how I look or how I come off or what I did do, what I didn't do, and etc. So it's an important little life lesson.
100% it is.
So, I was going to ask you unpopular opinions yoga edition, but you can say that if you would like, but earlier you said that there are some poses that you just won't do. And that was what I was really interested in. So I'm like, what are yoga poses you just will not do?
I will not do headstand. No headstands for me. And, and I think that's becoming more pop or less unpopular of an opinion. Like I mainly practice at Yoga View, and I feel like I'm rarely offered headstand as an option in a practice, which I appreciate. I mean, like I used to do headstands and, you know, had chronic neck issues for years. And, and I would just keep doing them, keep doing them. Maybe I'm not doing it right, but I don't know. To me, it's just not worth it. I mean, maybe for other, I'm not saying nobody should do headstands, but for me, nope. Frog pose, hell no. Like, ew, like the most unpleasant pose I've ever experienced. I mean, I'm not opposed to opening up the inner hamstrings, and I will do other poses, but I just feel like it's so hard on my knees. And again, I know some people enjoy frog pose. Like similarly, I'm not a fish pose person. Like it just crunches my neck. I feel like, yeah, I mean, I just have had, chronic long-term neck issues, and just coming to the realization over the years that, oh, maybe it's because of the headstands. Or, and then I have had knee injuries too, where, I'm just to the point, like something about frog pose, like just getting on those inner knees that does not work for me. Those are the main ones that come to mind: headstand and frog and fish pose. I just feel like there's other ways I can get similar benefits, and they've been injurious to me in the past. So, yeah, I just skip those.
No, that's so real. And as a person with issues, from time to time in my neck and in my shoulders, as soon as you started talking about headstand and neck injuries, I literally lengthened out my neck. I was like, oh my gosh. And yeah, I definitely like to experiment with headstand and stuff, but it is kind of like you have to be careful with your neck. And
Yeah.
that is the risk with inversions in general, because I'm like, you gotta be careful. You don't want to break your neck. You might not come out of that one. You don't want to injure yourself. So that is the risk right there. Yeah, and I had a teacher say that if you injure yourself, you're not doing yoga, because at the end of the day, it is about being self-aware and being like, nope, this doesn't work for me. I need to readjust or just not do this at all.
Why the body awareness is so key. And that ties back into mindfulness, because in order to direct your attention to different parts of your body, you have to be present. And then also directing your, like focusing your attention on different parts of your body also helps you be present. So it's like just all interconnected. I feel like it's, to me, like yoga is so tied into mindfulness, and without that piece of it, I don't feel like it's true yoga, I guess. I do have like one other unpopular.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Enough with like so many hamstring stretches. Oh my goodness. It's like, I mean, okay. So I get it. Like if you're stiff in the hamstrings and you can't touch your toes, then yeah, do lots of hamstring stretches. But like when you're kind of at the point you can touch your toes and you can, maybe get close to being flat, like for me, like in most group classes I go to, there are just way too many forward folds. I mean, because you get the forward folds in the sun salutations. There's like hamstring stretches and a lot of, other poses like pyramid or revolve triangle. Like I don't need to do like all of those poses plus Padagustasana plus Padahastasana, Paschimottanasana, like Janu, like I just, yeah. So it, for me personally, um, like I feel like maybe for, people who already have that flexibility there, like just lay off the hamstrings a little bit. It's so easy to injure them. I've had that very same injury. So as you can see, a lot of my kind of goals with yoga and like my mission in teaching is to help people not experience that injury from, just some of these common pitfalls that I see in practice. So yeah.
Mm, I love a good hamstring stretch. They just say I
I,
do. But one, I probably don't do as many as you name. I probably am like, okay, forward fold and pyramid and just certain things. I'm probably my hamstrings could be pretty tight. Plus the quads are crazy. So I might
yeah, that's why I say I guess this is more for me personally.
No, but I mean, I guess the thing is with that, with the whole like, lay on the hamstring stretch or lay off, because there is a point when people are hyper flexible. So in yoga, because I know, strength training wise, how we strengthen our hamstrings and how we strengthen our quads. And I even know in yoga how we strengthen our quads, but how do you strengthen your hamstrings in yoga?
I
Because
can,
it's mainly just stretching.
yeah, totally. And I like that's part of what, I've learned so much through having my injuries. Like at the time, did I complain a lot? Yes. A lot. And then, there's like this grieving process when you have an injury, like, oh, I'm grieving like that I can't do certain poses the way I could when you have that injury. Yeah. So with the forward folds, like, and having, that real common hamstring attachment issue, I just learned, like through, asking some of my teachers and then, like I don't think it's healthy to look at social media a lot, but I love, I love like my Instagram feed is pretty much all yoga related stuff and cats. So I learned a lot about doing that. There's like exercise, like one of the main ones, and I teach this in almost every class I do, is when you're doing bridge pose, you like walk your heels a little bit further forward than like right under your knees. And then you can either just really ground your heels into the mat and then isometrically pull the heels toward your hips. And that like lights up the hamstrings to like kind of turbo boost that. Like you lift your, like ground your heel and lift the toe and like push that in and then, isometrically pull it back. And then there's different things you can do with a yoga block where you like you'll be on a knee, like one knee, the other leg forward in a lunge. You place a block like kind of right below your sit bone, or maybe it's like kind of more on the sit bone. And then you use that block, you push your heel into the block pushes into your hip as that resistance. And it's like doing like a hamstring curl, like minus the calisthenic equipment at the gym. So there's a lot of things you can do, with blocks and just like using your own body weight for resistance. Like I'll do the thing of dragging my heels back to strengthen the hamstrings. In I'll do it in Paschimottanasana. Like I meant, since I do feel the need to do fewer forward folds, at least in this stage. Like when I do Paschimottanasana, I bend my knees and dig my heels in and pull them towards me. I just really and I do this in general, just because as I was mentioning earlier, I think the strength component is such a good preventative measure to getting these injuries. So just as part of my own personal practice, I'm always looking for ways to like, how can I make this pose feel stronger? How can I, or I'll, just figure out ways to work different parts of the body that aren't necessarily worked in a lot of the yoga asanas. So, but yeah, that's a big part of how I practice. I'm like, how can I make this harder? How can I get the hamstrings working? How can I engage my core? And there's so much you can do in that. And I don't know, there's just so many layers to the yoga practice. Like you can be doing a downward dog and it can, it can feel like somewhat of a resting pose, especially if you've been in like at a long vinyasa class. It can feel like like you're resting, but you can also take that down dog and you look like you're not doing anything. You look like you're completely still, but you like push the hands into the mat, isometrically pull them together, like isometrically pull the sit bones together. I mean, there's just, pull the hands towards the feet. And then like, I don't know, there's just like engage the quads, lift the kneecap. There's just like endless ways that you can, like once you get into the fundamentals of the pose and you build that body awareness, you can make all these little micro adjustments to make the pose kind of tailored more to what you need, um, which I love. How about you?
Yes. Well, no, thank you. Because it is important to think about body parts we never really think about in a different way. Because, we're always thinking about, okay, stretch the hamstring, but sometimes we do need to counteract that and strengthen that. And I'm like in the gym, like, duh, do deadlifts. But like, what do you do? What do you do when you're not in the gym? Like, you don't have to go to the gym to still strengthen and be mobile and to use your body in different ways. So thank you so much, Erin, for sharing. It has been a wonderful discussion. Before we get off this phone call, I am going to ask you to lead us through a quick pranayama, your choice, just a few breaths.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean the pranayama technique that I tend to go to the most is the box breathing, or I think sometimes people call it square breathing, but it's just really good for calming your mind, relaxing the body, like helping you focus. Because, as I mentioned, I deal with the anxiety, as I think most people do. And it's like, I feel like it's a relatively accessible, you know, breathing technique for beginners. So basically, what you're going to do in box breathing is there are four distinct parts to the breath. There's the inhale, there's the retention of the inhale, so holding the breath in, then you exhale, and then there's the retaining the breath out, so holding the breath out. And you do those four parts of the breath, holding them for an equal amount of time I tend to go with 4 seconds, but, depending on your needs or like how your breathing is feeling that day, you could do it, maybe 2, 3 seconds or, 6 or 8 seconds. But I'll do 4 seconds for this. So, and we're going to breathe through the nose. Surprise, surprise, as we do this. So wherever you are, just find a comfortable seated position. You don't need to be sitting on the floor in lotus or anything like that. You can be sitting just in a chair or a cushion. Just make sure you're comfortable and are able to kind of sense, some lift through the spine, some lift through the crown of the head, relax the shoulders, and just start by taking maybe two just smooth, um, long breaths in and out through the nose, just regularly, not box breathing just yet. The breath in, slow breath out, smooth breath in. And then we'll all take this last exhale to kick off the box breathing. And now inhale through the nose for 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. 2, 3, 4. Exhale for 2, 3, 4. Keep the breath out. 2, 3, 4. Breathe in for 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. 2, 3, 4. Smooth exhale for 2, 3, and 4. Hold the breath. 2, 3, 4. One more round. Inhaling for 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. 2, 3, 4. Smooth exhale for 2, 3, 4. And just hold the breath out for 2, 3, 4. And now go ahead and just take a natural breath in and take a couple more just natural breaths, fluttering the eyes open and hopefully feeling a little more relaxed and centered.
You definitely just made me yawn. That always happens during a yoga class, but my choir teacher said if you yawn, that means you're breathing correctly. So, no, thank you so much, Erin, for coming on to the Perfect Prana show. I hope to take your class again soon. It's a lovely class. And I'll also think more about strengthening my hamstrings now. It's not something that I think about too often. So thank you so much, Erin. With that being said, namaste.
Namaste. Thanks so
Thank
much, Kyah.
you. You're listening to the Perfect Prana show on 88.1 FM WCRX, Saturdays at 10 a.m., Sundays at 9 a.m. Also available on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, where I post extended versions. To keep up with me, follow me on Instagram at Consistently Kyah, consistently spelled with a K, Kyah spelled Kyah. If you're in Chicago, then come practice with me at LA Fitness on King Drive, Wednesdays at 9:45 a.m., Saturdays at 11. Weekly Wellness Challenge. So in the last season, I said I want to recycle the 8 limbs of yoga now with a fresh perspective, because this really is a path that is endless, honestly, to the end of life. I'll always be on the 8 limbs, or I'll always be on this path, and I'll have to keep recycling and keep going back. And that's just life. We go through times where our morality will be tested, and our discipline and our focus and all of that stuff. So yeah, anyways, of course, we're going back to the yamas. Okay, so since we are recycling, of course, we're starting with the yamas and we're going through it all again with ahimsa, non-violence. And it's interesting that this is the first aspect in the 8 limbs of yoga, is to not harm or try not to harm anyone. And it's an important one. Sometimes we can unintentionally harm others or ourselves and just not really be aware about it. The last time I turned it more back on to ourselves, like, okay, let's do something that's the opposite of harming ourselves. Let's do something to heal ourselves this weekend or whatever. But on this summer edition of the Perfect Prana Show, I would like to turn that back onto others. So this week's challenge is, let's find a way to help somebody this week, somebody in our lives. Maybe you don't know them that well. Maybe you know them very well. Find out a way where you can help someone other than yourself. Now, I feel like help is kind of an opposite of harm. Kind of, I don't know. That is the weekly wellness challenge. And after you're done helping whoever, journal about it. And it could be the smallest task. Maybe you just decide to hold the door open for somebody, and that is helping them out. You see that they drop something, pick it up for them. Maybe somebody in your life with kids needs a babysitter. You're like, you know what? I have a little bit of free time. I'll babysit. If my parents were here, that's how I would help them. But, I'll have to think about that. How can I help somebody this week? And then, of course, I'm going to journal about it because I've been inspired by my friend. If you listen to the last episode of season 2, journal about your interactions more. So, to help somebody, I don't know, go to a homeless shelter and give out food or something noble. I'm going through changes. There are things that I want to work on this summer, because I want to keep the Perfect Prana Show alive. I'm not gonna have access to this lovely studio forever, so there's a lot of work to be done. Either that or I'm just gonna have to enroll in another class. No, I just wouldn't do that. But yeah, it's been a great first episode of season 3. I'm excited for the rest of the summer. So yeah, that's it. School's out, summer's here, adulting is here, life is getting real. Before I go, let me leave you with a quote. This week's quote, and I actually am taking this from a friend, and she said this, and it wasn't, I don't think she got this from anywhere. She just said this. I was like, whoa, that was actually kind of deep. She's like, wait, I know, right? Backstory as to why I'm saying this is because, of course, I just graduated college. Summer is here. We're on this 3rd season. I'm without class. I'm without schoolwork and all that great stuff. Now I really do feel like I'm entering a new era, as I'm sure a lot of people do when you go through this transition. So you're like, okay, now I'm going to find new ways to fill my time, and I'm going to shift into a new person and kind of get a new identity besides a student. So this week's quote from really my friend's friend, but I'll say she's my friend. I like her. She's a nice little vibe. She's a music artist, and her name is Rainbows on Apple Music. I'll put her in the show notes, of course, but this is what she said when we were all sitting down and we were painting for my friend's birthday celebration, and she picked up the canvas and she goes, man, a blank canvas is a spiritual moment. And I felt that because that's how I feel about this new era that I'm entering in life. This is a blank canvas and it is a spiritual moment. So anyways, it's been real. It's been lovely. As always, thank you for tuning into the Perfect Prana Show on 88.1 FM WCRX, also available on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Again, keep up with me on Instagram at consistently Kyah, consistently spelled with a K, Kyah spelled Kyah. With that being said, the divinity in me bows to the divinity in you. Namaste.